if you are say an entrepreneur, or if you are with an entrepreneurial mindset today, and you want to harness the use of AI in solving some of the world's largest or biggest challenges, where do you see opportunities today that exist where people could venture in and solve?
Oh yeah, absolutely everywhere. I think the question is not, where could AI be applied, but where could you uniquely apply AI? It's a very general purpose technology. It has uses in all sorts of environments because really it's just about bringing the future forward. It's about making a prediction, or it's about automating something that you already do. And so we all do lots of things, and we all would like to know a lot of things about the future, no matter what industry you're in. So it's not a question of what it's applicable to. It's just a question of, as I said, what you can apply it to. And that is a function of what you know. It's a function of what industry have you been in? What do you know about the dynamics of that industry? What do you know about the economics of that industry? As in, what would be really impactful to automate? What's really expensive to do today that is done over and over and over again, and that is sort of annoying to do? That gives you a clue as to what would be really good to automate. Now, whether AI can automate that is another question, but you only know that by being in an industry a long time. And the same on the prediction side, that's on the automation side. What would give you a real edge over the competition to know ahead of time? That is something that you learn or have a feeling for, having been in industry a long time. So whatever industry you're in, I think start with the knowledge you have and then go from there and try to apply AI to predict something or automate something.
Interesting. And I'm curious to learn. So what is your take on the ethical part of AI, right? So ethics and AI, because we have seen many black swan movement. We have seen like our increased reliance on data and models somehow, if not done right, could sort of go in a different direction. So what is your take on the ethical like ethics and AI as two competing forces?
Well, look, it's obviously a big area of consideration. The way that AIs manifest themselves in every industry means that, there are a lot of considerations, some of them general and some of them specific to certain industries. So, it's very hard to generalize and talk broadly about the ethics of AI. What I will say is there are some uses of the technology today that can be a little bit dangerous, and that sort of open us up to some potentially negative consequences. And so I think the EU is taking good leadership there, or showing good leadership there in terms of banning certain uses of it. And that's, there's never so clearly a right and wrong. It's all a question of like what the system is and what your values are. But there are some cases where it's mostly agreed that it's a bit wrong. And so again, the EU is taking a good leadership role there. I think otherwise, one other perspective to consider is just a very standard utilitarian perspective, if we're to talk about ethics here, which is, what do you get from it and what does it cost? What are the potential downsides? And so, I often think, just try to apply AI in fields where the consequences of it being wrong are not very high, because it will be wrong sometimes. It's a probabilistic system. So at some point it will probably be wrong. And so don't use it in fields where if it makes a bad prediction, the consequences are going to be catastrophic, like in some areas of medicine, using AI to diagnose and treat diseases. That's probably often going to be pretty devastating if it's wrong. And so maybe don't focus on those areas. And on the flip side, or the corollary of this, is focus on areas where, AI just brings a net gain, as in, discovers something that's always going to be good to discover, like, to put it in a very sort of dollars and cents way, a new sales lead or a new marketing channel or way to market to customers. So that's another way I think about it in terms of the sort of payoff you get from using AI. Um, and I think the third perspective to offer here on the ethical side of things is, consider what the world would be like if we didn't use this. We'd be missing out on a lot of opportunities to live a better life, to have better forms of entertainment, to get access to food more cheaply and quickly because, AI allows us to automate the production of a lot of these things. And so I think it's sort of repugnant to not explore this technology based on some preconceived notion of what it can and can't do, because we don't know what it can and can't do. And there is a lot of potential upside here. And so, I think we are, well, I don't like to use the word should, but I will because I can't think of another one. But I think we should explore it because if we don't, we're missing out. And, that's not a good thing.
Interesting. And one more perspective of yours. So on the governance side of data and AI. So I was talking to one of the largest aircraft engine manufacturer, and they were talking about, and he was talking about the telematics, right? So how telematics and this boundaries play along. So his point of view was, Vishal, our struggle is if suppose our aircraft land from one continent or different country, and the data is downloaded to one of the local servers there and then moved to somewhere else, we process something. So, and many of these sort of have this the, the regulation and the policy is still sort of being thought out and sorted out. And he was saying that we have more lawyers than engineers working on this problem. So what is your take on how would the legislative or a regulatory scene could pan out? What is your take? I'm curious to learn.
Hmm. Um, yeah, look, I think it's good to get as many people as possible involved in thinking about the potential implications of AI and how we can get ahead of that with policy. Because, there is a big knowledge gap between policymakers today and those making the systems. There's a huge knowledge gap. I think a lot of people aren't necessarily thinking about the potential of this, not only in terms of the impact on people's lives, but the impact on the economy, positive in terms of the opportunities, and negative in terms of the potential for power consolidation, because the type of competitive advantage that AI gives you is very strong and it compounds very quickly. And so I think the more people we have thinking about this, the better. And I think a lot of knowledge transfer would be a good thing.